back again for another vlog. As you may be able to tell, I am not in Uganda right now. I'm actually back home and have a special guest with me who's very busy looking outside the window. I wanted to share this month's update of what happened this September or is it October? So we started the month very busy with our pastor's Thanksgiving weekend. This has actually been a series at the church of Thanksgiving, which is kind of their version of doing fundraising for the building project that's happening behind the church, which is going to be the construction of our new church. Which is really exciting, and as a part of that we've all been getting involved. All the different ministries have come together to encourage everyone to get behind this building project so we can build up our church and create bigger facilities to be able to facilitate more wonderful ministry, which is really exciting. So we had a great time as pastors, as the pastoral team. We came together and led the Thanksgiving by leading the first week. So that looked very similar to when the youth do a takeover. So the pastoral team took over responsibilities for all ministries and actually ministries that they don't normally oversee. So we had our missions pastor lead our choir. We had our senior pastor, our bishop Elisha. He ended up doing service production, which is kind of welcoming and administration end of church life, which was a very different role for him, really funny, and we thought it was hilarious that we'd given him this role because he's not very good at keeping time, and the service production manager has to be the one to keep everyone on time. So it was a really fun time, a lot of laughs, and I got really close with the pastoral team that week because I got to meet them more and work with them more. Normally we're all very spread doing very different ministries, so to actually work with the missions partner in the choir, work with one of the deacons in the children's ministry, it was really wonderful just to see people stepping out into different areas of ministry that they hadn't really engaged with before. We also invited other pastors from our church plants to come back for the Thanksgiving weekend to kind of represent their church as well. So after that we then brought them back to my home and we did a lovely meal together, a pastor's meal. We had about 50 people come to the house, which I was shocked everyone fit in, but it was such a blessing, really such a blessing to be able to host all these wonderful pastors with all very different journeys but all with the same heart to serve God. And we had a really fun time. The children were there. It was great fun, and the pastor also prayed for our pastors who had come from the church plants to encourage them and to build them up as they go back to their churches. After Pastors Week, it then went on to Women's Week, so the women led for the whole week all the different ministries, which went really well. The point of this was for every group to set a target of fundraising, and it was really wonderful to see that every group that set a target met their target, either in contributions at the time or in pledges that they're going to fulfill later. It's a really hard time everywhere across the world right now. The food crisis is not just in the UK, it's global. Food prices are going up, and yet still when we put a focus on our outreach and how to facilitate that, people want to give, people want to support the work that's happening through Amaziba Ministries, and that was really wonderful to see in all different areas of ministry. That then led into Youth Week, and of course as an assistant youth pastor I was responsible for helping coordinate that with the young people. This was a challenging week because normally we'd have all of the youth come and join us like we did when we did the youth takeover, but because the children had gone back to school, our young people have gone back into the schools now, it kind of fell down to our youth leaders to kind of take on that role. We have a really wonderful large youth leaders team that are older youth. These are like 20 to 30-year-olds, so they took responsibility for leading these ministries for a week, and they did a wonderful job. Our prison ministry was wonderful to have our youth leaders go and work in the prison. It was really special. Many of them hadn't been and worked within that ministry before, so that was really, really beautiful to help facilitate that. And actually in the prison ministry we've been having a really beautiful time of renewing people's faith, but also reassuring them of the walk they're on, and so much so that we had one lady who was the worship leader for the prison choir, she was being released the week of the youth week. So when we went in to serve them and to be with them and to lead a service, we then also got to commission her back into the community as she was being released the following day. I can't really put into words how overwhelming it is. It's a wonderful experience, but it's really it's just so unique. It's hard to put a word to it because there's challenges that she's going to face. There's loads of fears and concerns as to how she'll survive on the outside after being inside so long, how the community will re-accept her. Like, there's lots of things that she will face, and it's going from the stability of being in prison, of being in this really close-knit community of women, and having their children with them every day and being fed and knowing that they've got a safe space there. It's not a very nice space, but it is a place that they can call home. To go from that back into the community, I can't imagine how challenging that must be. I pray that her family were excited for her to return home. I pray she has a family, she has a community, that a place she can call home. But it's that kind of unknown. So we prayed for her and commissioned her back, and yeah, it was beautiful though, and she was so thankful and shared her thanksgiving of what the church had done and how the church had helped her along her journey of rehabilitation, and she was sad to leave her friends in the prison. I knew that after that there would be some follow-up that needed doing within the prison, because not only was it going to be incredibly challenging for her to be released, it's also incredibly challenging for the other inmates to watch their friend be released while they're still in prison. So we did a lot of work around what envy looks like, what malice looks like, and how we can flee from the spirit of those things, from these dark places that our mind can take us to when we allow jealousy to really corrupt our hearts. So that was really beautiful to look at. We had a great time. We also had some English friends come and join Brook and Jerry as an area. You always know when there's English people around because everyone's talking about it in the community. They'll say, oh, did you see those Mzungus? Mo, do you know those Mzungus? Are they from your church? And they just believe that we all know each other if we've got the same colour skin. So I had a really good time actually meeting those groups of volunteers who come out for short-term trips, especially one lady who I met who shared with me that she was starting to sense this call on her life to spend longer in Uganda, but she had no idea what that looked like and how to facilitate that and where God wanted her to be. So I had a real heart for that, and had a real heart for her, because I know that feeling of kind of I know where I'm supposed to be and I feel called to this location, but I'm not sure what that looks like. I'm not sure how that becomes a viable life. And yeah, living arrangements, all those things can be really challenging when you're facing them completely alone. So we had a lot of conversations about how I can facilitate her being out in Uganda, how I can help her and kind of be a mentor to her if she chose to do a longer term in Uganda, and introduce her to some different charities. So we did that. I took her to the prison when I was doing the talk about Jonah, which was really nice, and she shared with me, she was like, well, I learned something too actually, and I was so thankful, because that is the power of God, isn't it? When you're sharing the word of God and you're sharing to a specific target audience really, and yet still people who are with you can just be touched by God as well. It's a really special thing that God can work through all things, and bring out some wheat in the chaff that I share, that he can use all voices for his glory. So that was really special. And then I took her also to some other charities that I knew, the Chile Children, which is a special needs charity, went and showed her around what they do, just to give her a flavour and idea of what's already happening in Uganda and what she could be a part of. So that was a great time, really uplifted me, because I have a real heart for helping people on that journey of understanding their calling, because I know how challenging that journey is. It took years for me to really understand what it would look like, and it took a lot of patience for God to open the right doors. So yeah, other parts of the month included lots of wonderful time at the secondary school, Missio Day. I'm loving teaching there. It's such a highlight of my week. The classes have slightly changed but have made it easier, so now instead of teaching 60 children in a class, it's now split, so I teach 30 and then 30, which is so much better, so much more contact time and one-on-one time with students as we explore drama and dance and choral work. It's really wonderful, and helping them to learn about performing arts more and how it can help them in their lives. It's not just one of the study topics in their education, but actually it's a great way for them to gain confidence. One of the biggest things that I'm really slowly chipping away at is getting them to actually project and open their mouths a bit more. I think that's because they've been taught to be very well behaved in school, so they speak very quietly and don't speak back to their teachers. But actually when I'm teaching drama and wanting them to project and look at how to use their voice and the range of qualities and tones they could use in their voice, it's hard when all they do is whisper. So we're working on that and praying that will develop and get better and better. So that's really interesting to be teaching that in such a different culture where that's not a norm for them. Yeah, that's a real highlight. And also we got to enjoy some evening ministry with them. So I went back, I think it was a Friday evening after I taught during the day, came back with the youth team, and we led a service, and my friend Victor did an incredible job leading that service. They love her, they absolutely love her. She's such a success story of coming from a really tough background and yet serving God with everything she has, and now opportunities and doors have opened for her because of that. She's an incredible translator and has been sent on so many different missions from the Amaziba ministries because of her talent. So it's really wonderful for the youth to hear her story and to know more about her. We also had Jordan, who's one of the media guys, but also is doing music at the church. He came as well and shared his testimony. It was his first ever time actually sharing it, and that's daunting when it's your peer group, but he did really well, and it was really good to see him grow in that, and you could just tell how nervous he was, but he held it together and shared his testimony and stayed faithful to the story God had given him, which is really beautiful. Yeah, it was such a lovely evening. We had a lot of worship. Always absolutely astounded by the worship at the secondary school, because the worship team who come up to lead worship are actually bigger than the congregation when they come up. So it's the majority of the students who come up and lead the rest of the students. It's so nice, and they start praying together during worship, and they just grab each other and start holding hands and praying really intimately to God for each other, and it's so special to see, and it just created this tidal wave of prayer to God, and this unity that was across the room was absolutely stunning, really phenomenal. I also, while I was there, received a text saying, "We've just arrived, we'd love to come and meet you in Rukungiri." And this was a text from some friends that I've actually never met in person but heard so much about. They're family friends. They met my mum in Uganda, and then but they are from the UK, so they're Ugandans who moved to the UK, live near Grantham area, but back in Uganda visiting, and they asked if we could meet up while they were visiting Rukungiri. So that was a really wonderful night to be with them. They went to go visit all their nieces and nephews who were in one of the schools in Rukungiri, so I went and met them there, and then ended up going back to theirs for dinner, where I ate a strawberry, which is unheard of in Uganda. But we had such a wonderful night, and just reminiscing and talking about our journeys as to how God's brought us to where we are right now. Another real joy that I got to experience this month with Emily and Alfred was the birth of their new baby. It was such a special time. She's an incredible mum, a really natural mum, and she's going to do an amazing job as a mother. Some really other wonderful things that happened during my normal working week was that my friend Victor had her birthday, so we threw her a birthday surprise. I got her a cake to celebrate with her this wonderful year that she's had and the wonderful year that's to come. In Uganda they have a tradition of throwing a lot of water over the birthday person. This is a tradition to do with this baptism that happens when the baby's born into the world. They believe that that's their first shower, so therefore they keep up the tradition and give the person a birthday shower every year following their birth. Victor did not like this surprise. I had promised her that I wouldn't shower her, and I held to that promise. I really did. Even though they wanted me to be a part of it, I gave them the buckets, but I didn't let them use water from the house, so I think I'm in the clear when it comes to the showering and who's responsible for her soaking wet clothes. But it was a really, really fun time. We had a lot of laughs and celebrated this wonderful person who's been a part of an incredible ministry and all the wonderful things she's doing for God. I also got to spend some more quality time with Pastor Paul and Eustine's children. They're so wonderful, Mark, Josiah and Hosanna. And I took them to this hotel near Rukungiri that has a pool. It's the only pool in that area, which was really exciting and actually something I want to continue with them because they were so excited for it. And often Ugandan children are scared of water, and yet they were really up for it. So I think as an auntie to them, that will be my responsibility now, to take them swimming. And Hosanna, though, after swimming was absolutely freezing and she was shaking, which was so funny. Now during this time I'd actually been quite ill over the month, but after being ill for quite a while and having to take some time off and being in bed, I then received word from my family that actually they were starting to get more concerned about the Ebola outbreak in Uganda and what that would look like with me coming back to the UK, especially with transport, as some flights were starting to be cancelled due to kind of the spread of Ebola in the country. So straight away after that conversation, I met up with the Bishop, Bishop Elisha, and we spoke about what I should do as I was planning to come home in 2 weeks from the time we had the conversation anyway. So with his blessing, I came back to the UK 2 weeks early, which is why I'm filming from here, to spend time with my family. I also came home and got ill, so I've also spent some time in bed here, but I'm feeling much better now and getting involved with ministries back in this community, which is a lot of fun. So even today I'm going off to be a part of a after school club that the St. George's are starting to run at one of the schools. So wherever I go, I know that God will use me and be useful and that he has a perfect plan. But I'm just being careful and keeping an eye on what's going on in Uganda and then judging as to how I can be most helpful. So that's where I'm at right now. I'd really appreciate your prayer into that. The Ebola outbreak is still happening in Uganda. It's still spreading. We're just praying that it slows and that everything the government's doing to help stop the spread, the localised lockdowns, that they're successful and that a vaccine can be released and can help. That's really the biggest prayer, that there will be something to stop Ebola from spreading. So as a part of that decision, I had to say some goodbyes quite quickly to quickly get a flight so I could ensure that I could leave the country. So I hosted an evening like goodbye and farewell, and it just turned into a massive games and movie night, which was wonderful. We had all of my friends come round, all of the young people that I work with and do ministry with. It was so nice to spend some time with them, show them my favourite movie, which they thought was hilarious, so felt really successful that I'd shown a good movie. Said goodbye at the beach, which is close to Entebbe, where we had our final goodbyes, and then I left the country. So I'm currently back in the UK, awaiting to see what happens with Ebola, but with the hope of going back at the end of November, start of December, so I can go back and get stuck back into ministry in Uganda. and return to my home there. So that's it for this video. I hope that update was helpful. Please send me a message if you'd like to get involved more, if you'd like to talk more about how you can help with the Ebola crisis. And yeah, thank you for your support and watching this video, and please keep Uganda in your prayers at this time. Okay, goodbye!